Welcome to the Dr. Ini Adesanya podcast. I have various U.S. and international accounting and tax designations, a master's in tax, and a PhD in business administration with a concentration in finance and accounting. Over the past 2 decades, I have helped several SMEs succeed. This podcast will provide strategies and resources to help startups and existing businesses thrive. Let's get started. Okay, today we're just going to talk about getting out of tax debt after filing a joint tax return. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but when you file a joint tax return with anybody, right? I mean, you and that person, you know, usually spouse returns, right? Here, I'm talking specifically in the United States. When you file a joint tax return, you and your spouse are liable for that tax. What does that mean? It means that if let's say after filing the tax return and it shows that you owe $10,000, the Internal Revenue Service can come after you for the $10,000, you and your husband for the $10,000, or your husband alone for the $10,000. And I've heard of cases where the husband, maybe something happened and one spouse is not working. Then IRS says, okay, since one spouse is not working, I'll get the money from the other spouse because it's joint tax return. And that's how it works. Now, sometimes, you know, it has happened before that one spouse does something in the back and maybe get some money somehow by doing extra work or maybe, extra work or just getting some money. And sometimes that spouse maybe forgets to report it, right? And then it comes out that, okay, later on it's found out that this other spouse did not report it. Guess what happens is a joint tax return. And so what happens is that, both people are liable because the person filed a joint tax return for that tax year. Now, it could also be that, that there's an amount that was due, and because of one of the spouse's behavior or something, it could be that the spouse changed his or her withholding to punish the other spouse, right? I'll give an example. A couple is going through a divorce. The woman or the spouse, let's say the woman has been a stay-at-home mom. And so the spouse, the husband, is the one that has been paying, the bills and everything. Then you realize that they're going going for a divorce. So what this spouse may do is reduce his withholding so that at the end of the day, the year of the divorce, there's a big tax bill because he knows joint tax return, right? And it could either be he or she, because it could be the wife doing it to the husband. So it could be any way, right? And then at the end of the day, the tax bill for that year is high. It could be all kinds of reasons. Now, how do you get out of that? How about if that other spouse did not even know about this extra work that spouse A is doing, right? Spouse A is doing, and then spouse B doesn't even know about. Then at the end of the day, there's a big tax bill. And because that year they filed a joint tax return, spouse B becomes liable also. Well, IRS has seen that has been a case. Like there's been cases, not even a case, cases. And they actually offer some kind of relief for people that have gone through such situations, right? The first one is called innocent spouse relief. In that case, you don't really know, you didn't know about it, right? And you actually file that, oh, I'm innocent, just like the name says, innocent spouse relief, right? I'm innocent, I didn't know about it. Now, please, you're not innocent, right? If you come back home and your spouse is buying you a mink coat, right, of $7,000, and your spouse is earning minimum wage, but every time he buys you, 7,000 big expensive gifts. So, I really don't know if that innocent spouse relief, and then you find out that your husband has some kind of business in the back end and is not reporting it to the government, and you come and say, oh no, I'm innocent, innocent spouse relief. I don't think that will fly with the government, because they know when they use reasonable knowledge and look at all the situation. But there are really people, really honestly, there are people that really go through stuff. And that example I gave you about someone going through a divorce and the other spouse says, I'm going to do that to hurt that spouse. There are cases like that. I've actually seen a case like that, and this was the defense. And it eventually, the spouse said, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Right? So that's the innocent spouse relief. You don't really know about it, and you end up seeing money that the IRS says, but you earn this, or something IRS gets wind of some money you've been making and it's not been reported. All right. Then the innocent spouse can say, oh no, please, even though I filed a joint return, I really didn't know much about this. And then the innocent spouse relief will usually, of course, conditions apply. It's not like, oh yeah, but sometimes, conditions, situations, they look at everything. I gave an example. You're getting a mink coat, fur coat, expensive presents, perfume, flying everywhere. And say, oh my goodness, I'm innocent. It doesn't fly. It'll definitely, likely not fly. All right. Another one is the separation of liability relief. What does this mean? Now, the separation of liability relief really means that we're just saying, okay, let me take this debt, I'll take this portion of the debt and I'll be responsible for that. And the other spouse B will say, I'll be responsible for that. It's like, it's just like sort of an agreement. This one is, responsible for this part. The other one is responsible for that part. So that's really separation. You guys come to an agreement. You make sure the IRS knows this and says, okay, this is it. And of course, all these things I'm telling you is just high level because criteria apply. All right. Criteria apply. But I just wanted to give you the first one, that innocent spouse, you have to really know if you're an innocent spouse, right? Okay. Then the other one is, if you don't, assuming that you don't qualify for innocent spouse, you don't qualify for separation of liability, of the joint liability, you don't qualify for that. There's one more, that's equitable relief. Now, of course, conditions apply. So if you don't really qualify for the other two and say, you know what, I don't really think I'm innocent, I'm under the innocent spouse, I don't think that is separation of liability relief, you know what, maybe equitable relief might apply. So the IRS, of course, certain conditions apply. In this case, it also applies to understatements of taxes and underpayment of taxes. What does understatement of taxes mean? Of course, just like, you are stating instead of putting it on your return that you are owing $5,000 in taxes, right? Because of maybe something's omitted. Your return shows 2,000, right? And that's understatement. But underpayment, we know what that means. You have 5,000, 10,000 you're supposed to pay. You're paying 5,000, all right? So, but the equitable relief, right? As equitable, if you look at it, it means fair, right? Being fair, right? And so what happens is that the IRS looks at everything, looks at the facts of the circumstances of everything, and decides, do you really, does it really apply to you? So the reason why I'm just stating this is that I know of people that really, really, really go through stuff, and they really, really, somebody has even come to me where, that one was really sad because the spouse passed away, and then she was hit with a bill because the spouse had some income that wasn't reported, right? And that year, of course, they've been filing a joint tax return, and she came to me and she was telling me about this issue, and I said, yes, you can file the innocent spouse relief, and explain to them that you did not know. It was really sad because the man passed away. So these are the things that sometimes some issues that come up with in joint returns. Now, if you're not sure of sometimes some people are not sure of the liability that your spouse tax liability. You might think of also looking at filing a separate return, married filing separately. I know that married filing separately might not be so attractive because there's some benefits that you don't get under marriage filing separately that is only reserved for married filing jointly, right? So there's some benefits that you might not be able to get. And so, but if it means you really looking at the situation and you say, you know what, yes, I know I'm not going to get these benefits, but my spouse needs to sort out his debts before I file a tax return with him or her. That's fine. That's fine. I actually know some spouses that say, you know what, I have so much debt. You know what, you file on your own. He or she will say, you know what, I've seen cases like that because one spouse has a lot of debt or a lot of tax debt, say, you know what, you file on your own, right? So it doesn't mean that you filing on your own, it doesn't mean that filing on your own makes you, that this is less of a home or something like that. No, it's just because of the situation. Yes, you might not get those benefits, those credits and those benefits, but you know what? You have to look at what is it really, you have to really sit back and say, you know what, what's the cost benefit analysis? I always look at cost benefit analysis. Is it better for you to file with this person or your spouse, or your file with your spouse when you know that the person has a lot of issues and trying to resolve a lot of issues? I'm not saying that the person will not be able to resolve it eventually. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that it's very important for you to assess before you file a joint return, because at the end of the day, you might be liable for something that you don't even know about, right? You don't know of, I would say that you don't know of, so make sure you're really, really sure of that. All right. So again, innocent spouse relief, there is separation of liability relief, and there's equitable relief, right? So the equitable relief is actually the last resort if you don't qualify for the first two. And again, as I said, I have to reiterate this. Don't think, they know if you're really true, honest. I mean, I don't know how they know, but they know. And they look at all the facts of the matter, everything, to come and say, okay, yes, file for the innocent spouse relief or file for the separation of liability relief. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're going into segment 2. Segment 2, remember, of this podcast is all about questions. I have a couple today to share with I think, let's see if I can looking at the time and see if I can really fit in maybe two or maybe more, and then we'll close by today. I'm just going to give a tip, something that you have to look out for, at the end of the closing of this, which is segment 3. All right. Okay. Let me see the first.
Hello, Dr. Eni. My name is A. Aid. I have 2 questions. 1, is it important to ask an attorney to review my business contracts? 2, I want to grow my business. How do I find new customers? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, this is not an uncommon question. Let's tackle the first one. Is about reviewing your business contracts. Yes, and yes, and a yes. Get an attorney to review your business contracts. There are so many ways that you can get an attorney that will do it at a very cheap rate. At qualified attorneys, there are so many subscriptions out there. I'm not gonna here, I'm not marketing subscriptions here, but I just want to let you know there are so many subscriptions out there where you can actually get an attorney that will review your business contracts. Is very, very important, because I know that there are a lot of websites where you can get legal documents, really, get prepare your legal documents and get it printed out, and but before you get it signed, please get an attorney to review this business contract. I remember because sometimes we went and space for seminars, right? And I remember that we had a seminar one time with one of these large hotels, and I mean, was involved with getting the contracts, and and then we had to sign. And I remember that, of course, we sent it to our legal team to look at the contract. And they said, you know what, everything looks good, but make sure that even you want to change it, make sure you put it in writing, And, she said, everything is standard. And I remember that at that time, I think we had to change something. And so we could not use that date anymore. So I remember that we had to follow up and say, you know what, we're not using that time anymore. We're moving it. And and put in writing and everything. And a couple of weeks before the event, the general manager of that hotel sent us an email asking us, when are we coming? What we have details on the food and things like that. Sent us an email. And I remember, I know it sounds so little putting it in writing, right? Because that's all the recommendation of the attorney. It wasn't like, oh, do something huge, but just put it, anything you want to make, any changes, put in writing. That's what saved the day. We just referred her to the email we wrote. And that was it. That was the end. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't remember. That was it. So yes, any business contract, whether it's coming from you or coming from the other party, get it reviewed. Is very, 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 very important. Yes, I think, let me review, look at the second, I think, question. I make sure I got the second question. I think she said the two second.
Hello, Dr. Eni. My name is A. Aid. I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, is it important to ask an attorney to review my business contracts?
I answered that. Let me see the second one. I can.
Two, I want to grow my business.
Yeah.
How do I find new customers?
Oh, yes. I just wanted to repeat it to make sure. Yes. How do I find new customers? We talked about that. I would suggest Aid that you go back and look at, I think it was episode 104. Just, go, we look at, go through that, listen to that episode, because one thing we talked about is social media. And we also talked about, we had a specialist that came in to talk about marketing. Marketing is a huge thing, but you have to know how to market, right? So that is something that I believe that it's something that you should look into. You didn't mention your line of business, but I would say that you should know how you market. It depends on if you're doing social media, and you are sort of a neighborhood business, like something like a daycare, right? Daycare business, right? Is really about the neighborhood. People want to drop off their kids closer to home, things like that, so that when they come back from work, they can pick up their kids. So you would be marketing in the local neighborhood. So to grow your business, get more customers, is through making sure that you're doing your marketing well. And I really like what Jade, which is our marketing specialist, what she said. She said you have to really, really know, what you're doing. What is it that you're doing? Are you like, she talked about a restaurant. Are you doing it? Do you want to focus on family, or do you want to focus on the younger people? So she said it depends. What do you want? That would really tell you how you would market. So that's really the big thing. And then, of course, referrals. I actually spoke about that. Make sure that anybody that uses your service talks about you, tells people about you, is a huge and beneficial thing, right? To make sure that person actually does that. Okay, it could be family, it could be friends, anyone that use your service. I've seen people that I gave this example before. Oh my goodness, you make beautiful cake. My cousin makes beautiful cake. Oh my goodness, who are you telling about that? Oh my goodness, don't sell her cake. Oh my goodness. So make sure you are actually putting it there on the review. Tell your family to do that. And I'm hopefully, as you're also having a very good quality, putting out a very good product. Your product must have quality. People are great paying for good quality. They will pay for good quality, right? And they'll keep on coming back. right? And then I would like to say customer service. I know, a restaurant that always talks and says, oh, thank you. They're always into their customers, and you feel like, oh my goodness, you feel so good. So make sure you make your customers feel like, they're part of, they're part of you, part of, you're part of them. Should I say that? You are part of them, part of their life, their business, or they bring their newborn baby into maybe where you are, maybe your office, just be involved with them, hi, nice baby, things like that. Or somebody's coming to celebrate a birthday, give them something extra. I know some restaurants even do that, but even beyond restaurants, do something unique about let your business stand out. That's what I would say. Let your business stand out. All right. Okay. All right. I think we can take another set of questions. I think I can take, let me see. Yeah, just I can take another set of questions. Let me see.
Hi, Doctor. My name is Nib Sanya. I actually have 2 questions. 1, we made a lot of losses during COVID. What now? 2, do I diversify or stick to my line of business? Thanks.
Well, actually, okay, I don't know if you heard that, but this is actually the question is combined, as I would think, even though it's 2 questions, but I would combine them. The first one was a lot of losses during COVID, and the second question is that should I diversify? I'm putting both of them together. Well, first of all, during COVID, I would have expected, I'm not trying to, let me not go back. Let me move forward. You should sit back and look at how to change your business, maybe should I say your business, how your business operates, how is your business operate? What is it that you're doing? What are you giving? Some people are just into, let's say they're into, what will I say? Let me set an example. I know someone that was like an event planner. I used that, and I was so amazed at what this person was doing. And because of COVID, the person became a Zoom event planner. Can you believe that? A Zoom event planner, right? If those that know what happened during COVID, it was so boring at home and things like that. But imagine having a Zoom event planner. That was just an amazing concept. I know about someone that was always like an entertainer, and then the person started giving packages where you do like play the guitar or piano for somebody's anniversary. Was it like a package deal, things like that. So I would say that sit back and see how your business can spread its tentacles, right? I know that COVID really, really hit a lot of businesses. It's right now for you to sit back and look at what's happening and look at what ways can you just spread your tentacles. I've given you 2 examples about someone that said, the person could have said, you know what, I'm not, there were no events during COVID, but then Zoom events, Zoom parties, Zoom. It became so wonderful at how people, came up with so many concepts. So sit back and come up with a concept. You might have to diversify. So I wouldn't say no, but just sit back and not just diversify because your colleague or your neighbor, should I say, maybe your neighboring business, not your really colleague, but someone that is your neighbor, that is a business owner, is diversifying into a particular field. Look at what works for you. Look at what works for you, right? What you think that is selling now. I mentioned in one of my podcasts how somebody was into t-shirts during COVID, into t-shirts. And but during COVID, the person changed and turned the making of t-shirts, changed it into making PPEs and made a lot of money, right? So look at what works. I know maybe PPE right now is not as big as it was during COVID time, but you have to look at and see what works. All right. So both the diversification and the issue with diversification and that of losses. I'm hoping, yes, businesses will move from losses to profit. But I just think that you have to sit back and go back to the drawing board and see what works, and what are customers looking for at this time. All right. Yes. So we're done with segment 2. The last segment, I'm just going to end with one advice, one tip. Now, there's been a lot of tax scams, right? People are calling, people either, different walks of life. They're calling them on the phone and telling them, oh, they need to go and pay immediately. Oh, they're owing. Oh, you need to go and pay. Or they are coming. The cops are coming. You're going to lose your social security number. Please, please. You don't lose your social security number if you're owing taxes. Please note that. If somebody calls you on the phone and harasses you, that payment is due. It doesn't work like that. Usually before IRS even comes to your office, usually they start by sending you letters, right? Telling you that they are coming, right? And even if somebody shows up, there's a formal way of doing that. They don't just call you and say, oh, go and pay. Immediately, if you don't go and pay, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be locked up. You're going to lose your... No, that's not... So please be aware of tax scams. So many people have almost... some of them have already fallen victim. Some of them have almost. And hopefully you did not fall, but if you have, sorry about that. But going forward, if anybody calls you and tells you, rush and go and pay any money, run to the bank. Oh, give me your social security number. Oh, you're going to be locked up. Oh, you want to lose your social security number? Please ignore that. That is not true. You don't lose your social security number by not paying taxes, right? There are ways that the Internal Revenue Service will actually call and, first of all, they actually start letters. They don't just start harassing you, calling you. And if somebody even calls you, they first of all say my identification number, then they'll say, oh, this is what I'm doing. They don't even, it's not about you running to somewhere to pay, right? And if they stress that you should pay, tell them not a problem. You go to the Internal Revenue Service website to pay. If you're not even comfortable, sometimes people come to your office and you might not you're not sure, you're not comfortable, say, no problem, give me 24 hours. I'll go to the Internal Revenue website and pay. It's very straightforward to go to the website, pay now, and then they'll walk you, the website will just walk you through. All right. So do not run and give someone your debit card, give somebody your information, right? All right. Do not do that. All right. So hopefully today has been great and somebody has gotten something today. So have a good one. See you next time. And remember, October 11th is when we're doing starting our live podcast. All right. Also, have a good one. Thanks for having me. Remember to join my live podcast on Tuesdays, 6 to 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Visit my website, driniadesanya.com, for details. Till next time, bye for now.